guys, it's Kevin again, my review for The Gentleman. And what The Gentleman is essentially about is we center on the character of Mickey Pearson. He is basically someone that has built this very profitable and very successful sort of marijuana empire in London. It's been doing really well, but he is getting a bit older and he's thinking about retiring. He kind of wants to just settle down with his wife, so he's looking to sell the business. But the problem is one of the main profiters, the person that wants to, take over his business, is this very shady Chinese organization led by this villain, Dry Eye. So basically, Mickey has to try to do what he can to make sure it does not fall into the wrong hands and make sure that this can run as smoothly as possible without getting his hands dirty, but also make sure that he can come out of this in the best way as well, and that's really all I'm going to say. So, The Gentleman overall, I was very excited for this film. This looked a lot of fun to me, and here's the thing. I can't really say, before this film at least, if I was a fan of Guy Ritchie or not, because I kind of came to the realization over the week this film was coming out that, holy shit, I've only seen one Guy Ritchie film in full, and it was the one he did last year that didn't feel like a Guy Ritchie film to most people. So I couldn't even say that didn't feel like a Guy Ritchie film because I haven't really seen any of his other movies. So quickly before this, I did watch two of the films that everyone is saying this film was harkening back to, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, which I think is decently entertaining. I do think that it's a little bit rushed, and some of the characters, I wish there was a bit more to them, but I had a good time with it. And then Snatch, I really enjoyed. I can definitely see why everyone really does love that one, because it is a very fun film for sure. A lot of great characters in that one, so many great performances, and just a very, very fun film overall. So after those two films, I actually was kind of excited to see how The Gentleman was going to be, considering that everyone was saying that it was a return to form for Guy Ritchie. This looks much closer to what they would expect for him to do. And after seeing it, I have to say, yeah, it very much is a return to form. I don't love it quite as much as everyone does, but I did overall enjoy this movie. There's a lot that does really work about it, and for a January movie to be even moderately good is a huge success for me. So we're just getting to right now, starting off with the cast. And without a doubt, I think that is the thing that absolutely makes this film as good as it is. I think if this cast was not in this movie, I do not think this film would be nearly as successful. Let's first talk about Matthew McConaughey, who is an actor that I think has been in a little bit of a, he's been a little bit of a downside lately. He's been doing some films that either people don't see or people just flat out don't like Serenity last year. I love that movie, not because it was good, but because he was hysterically funny in that. But then he's done things like The Beach Bum, which I did actually really love him in last year. I thought that was a great performance from him. But The Gentleman is absolutely, I think, his big comeback role. Mickey Pearson is the type of role that we would expect for McConaughey to play. He's very charismatic, but he also can be very sinister. But you can also see how dedicated he is to this business and how much love he has for everyone that's a part of it. And I just thought he did a really great job here. He really does chew up all the scenery, as you would expect McConaughey to do. But I thought he just did a really great job in this role. It definitely seems like this is his big return. I hope moving forward we start seeing more McConaughey performances like this, because I honestly do miss the McConaissance, if you will. I really do. I miss seeing him in like these amazing films, and I hope moving forward we can see him in more stuff like this, because like I said, I think this is much closer to what we would expect out of him, and he definitely is one of the best parts of this entire film. However, far and away, the big standout of this movie is Hugh Grant as the character of Fletcher, who, holy shit, I don't think I have ever loved Hugh Grant quite this much before. Not only is he so fun and just so ridiculously entertaining in this role, he really transformed himself here. This is not the kind of role we normally see Hugh Grant play. This guy is sleazy, this guy is very maniacal, but also just his seduction with Charlie Hunnam's character, the way he goes about it. It's so great to see. And Hugh Grant, I mean, if he was not in this movie, I do not think it would be as fun as it is. But you also have to very much credit Charlie Hunnam, because without his banter with Hugh Grant, this movie would not be nearly as much of a riot as it is. And he absolutely is great in this movie. He's definitely playing more of a straight man, but it's a great role for Hunnam for sure. sure. An actor that I think has been struggling a bit. You know, he had a great role in Sons of Anarchy, but since then he's really been trying to find something that suits him, and I think this is definitely it. I think he did a really great job in this film. I really love what he did here. And his chemistry with Hugh Grant is just rock solid. Those two have just such a great dynamic. I loved their back and forth throughout the film. But the other big comedic standout for me, though, was absolutely Colin Farrell, who is not in the movie a lot, but whenever he came on, oh my god, he had me in stitches. He plays this coach of sorts that takes kids that are troubled and tries to reform them, but the way he goes about it, the way he will talk to them in these certain situations, I mean, this guy does not hold back. He is so fun to watch, and I just loved everything about Colin Farrell in this movie. He was so fun to watch and very, very charismatic for sure, and definitely reminds you just how great of an actor Colin Farrell really is. All the other performances here are really great as well. Michelle Dockery does a really great job as McConaughey's wife. I thought she did a really strong job here. I really liked Henry Goulding in this film. I thought that he did a very strong job. Everyone really does do a good job. The only performance that I would say just did not work for me is Jeremy Strong. This is an actor I've been very on and off with, and in Serenity last year, he was bad, but like funny bad, to the point where it felt like he was in a different movie, and that's the case for everyone in that movie. Here, I just did not buy him in this role. I didn't think he worked that well. He's not in the movie to where it's a huge hindrance, but I just did not really buy him here. But other than that, this is easily already one of the best ensembles the entire year so far. Everyone's just giving the performance of their life. Everyone's just, you can tell, is having a great time in these roles, and it's just so great to see this incredibly talented ensemble of actors pretty much be utilized in the best way possible, and I think that's definitely the best thing about this film. But now let's get to the directing and the writing, because, like I said, going into this film, the one thing that I heard is that this felt much closer to what Guy Ritchie has done before, and in a sense, it very much is. Similar to Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, this has the same sort of snappy, quippy tone of those films. It's very fun. There's a lot of humor in there, but there also is a lot of sort of, gangster sort of feel, and there's a lot of machismo and all that kind of stuff, and this is stuff that we've seen in other Guy Ritchie films. He does very much apply that here, and I think he definitely does do a really good job with that. But I have to say, I think he really leans heavily on the comedy here. This is far more of a comedy than you are expecting it to be. It is, and it's absolutely hysterical. There's a rare moment where the humor did not work for me. There might have been some jokes that did overall fall flat, but for the most part, I think this film is consistently funny, and I think that's something that Ritchie absolutely delivered on, and you can tell that he really wanted to do that, but also just the way that he doesn't hold back, that he isn't afraid to say certain things that you wouldn't say in a normal comedy, is something that I very much do respect, and I think overall his directing was very successful here for sure. You can tell that he is paying tribute to like Tarantino and people like that, but he does have his own style, and I think he definitely does do a good job with that here. In terms of the writing for this movie, there's a lot that I really do love about it. Right off the bat, I think we have so many just colorful characters here, whether it's someone, like I said, Colin Farrell's character, this no-nonsense sort of coach, and his sort of approach is just so fun to watch, or Henry Goulding as this very charismatic and over-the-top villain that is just so fun and relentlessly entertaining in that way, or Hugh Grant, who, like I said, I think is the big standout in terms of the way that he goes about things in this film. There are just so many great characters here, and I think he definitely does do a really great job with that. That being said, I do think that the screenplay is a little bit clunky overall. It is the one thing that does bring this film down for me. Because right off the bat, I will say, I do really like the storytelling in this movie. The way this film is approached is actually really cool. You know how in the trailer you see Hugh Grant and Charlie Hunnam and them talking about, characters in a movie? Well, that's because the style of this film basically is Fletcher telling this story. He's recounting what happened, but he's doing it in the style of a movie. And throughout the whole film, he's kind of like an unreliable narrator, where there's a lot of things that we're not entirely sure if they actually happen or if he's just fabricating it to make it sound more interesting and more movie-like. And so that's the way it's done. I thought that was a really cool idea. It kept it fresh, it kept it exciting, and whenever we cut back to them, I really liked what they ended up doing there. I thought that that was a really interesting approach to this story for sure, and I did really like the way the storytelling was done there because there's so many elements that you're not entirely sure if this is true or not. So I think that's a cool idea. The problem is, I do, and this is something that I've always had a problem with Guy Ritchie, even with the two films that I watched before this. I just feel that sometimes he can let his style and his very unorthodox approach get in the way of really good character development, because that is my biggest issue with this movie. I just think that there's a little too much happening very too quickly. That's the best way to sum it up. I mean, especially the first act. The first act, there's so many things we're introduced to very rapidly, and again, this is not stuff that I had a problem with them doing that. That's not really the issue. I just wish that he'd slow down a bit. I wish we'd be able to slow down and really revel in these characters and really sink in what's happening, because there are points where, I'm not gonna lie, it was a little hard to tell what's going on. I was enjoying it. It's not like it took me out of the movie or anything, but there were some points where I'm like, wait, what's that really about? What are they really trying to do there? I wish we would have had a little bit more time to zero in on some of these characters. Our main character, Mickey, especially. I feel like we could have gotten some more authentic character work with him, and I think it would have made him an even stronger character than he was. So I do feel that is an aspect that Ritchie has yet to improve upon. He still does feel the need to let that get in the way of his films, but again, it still remains a lot of fun. I don't want to take away from that. The movie is still so much fun to watch. There's so many fun, like, heists and all these kind of schemes they do and things like that. That's very entertaining, but there are some points where you may find yourself getting a little lost, and I don't think that that is on purpose. I think that was just something that Ritchie could have handled a little bit better, and it is my main flaw with this film. But besides that, this is a very fun screenplay for sure. I think there's a lot of great stuff going on here. There's so much great dialogue and things like that, and I really loved where they end up going there. The cinematography in this film, I mean, this is already one of the most stylized films of the entire year. There's such a great sense of feel to this movie. It has a very specific sort of vibe to it, and I really did appreciate that for sure. There's so many great scenes in this movie in terms of action and things like that. A lot of great action stuff going on, and I really did appreciate that. There's one chase especially that I thought was just so fun to watch, and I really loved the way that was done. There's a lot of great action scenes here that, like I said, I really appreciated, and I thought was very well done. And the score as well is actually really great. It's really riveting. It really keeps you invested in what's going on, and I really enjoyed the score quite a bit in this movie. And the editing, this is really my only other flaw with the film. I do think this film can get quite choppy. Like I said, the first act, it does zoom through things a bit too quickly, but for the most part, it is well paced. It's mainly an issue in the third act of this movie, which, without spoiling too much, this is one of those films where, because of the fact that there's so many characters and there's so much going on, the film feels the need to have one too many twists at the end. There was a twist that they did that I was okay with. I was like, all right, that's a fine twist. I get what they're trying to do. I understand this is where the movie's ending and you think the movie's over. But then they do another one, and after that point, I was like, okay, but I wish we had a little bit more time to really soak into that twist. I feel like it was thrown at us a little too much, and I think the movie got a little too carried away with just how many shocking things it could do, and I think that is very much Ritchie's fault. I think he should have taken his time more with this stuff, and I would have appreciated just a bit more overall. And it is kind of a major issue, I'm not gonna lie to you. I just wish that we had a bit more time to invest in everything. It's the one thing that does bring this movie down from being something truly great, because for a while I was like, oh my god, I'm really loving this movie, but then halfway through, I'm like, wait, I don't know enough about some of these characters. I wish we had a little bit more time to process some of that stuff. But again, considering how just entertaining and fun it is, it's kind of hard to pick on it too much. It's kind of hard to make it be too much of an issue to the point where I didn't enjoy the movie, because overall I did enjoy this movie at the end of the day. But there are many things here that they do that I did not know that you could do in a 2020 film. And that's something that Ritchie is not afraid of. He's not afraid to go in some very, very risky directions that are already pissing a lot of people off. Particularly a scene at the end involving a pig. That's all I'm gonna say. Holy shit. That's all I'll say to that. I can't believe he actually went there. But honestly, it probably got the biggest laugh out of me of the entire movie. I don't know about everyone, but I thought it was maybe the funniest scene in the entire movie. I really loved what they end up doing there. And, even I know some people are probably going to find it really problematic, but it really did work quite well for me. And so that's the thing. At the end of the day, while I do have quite a lot of problems with The Gentleman, I still had a really good time with it. There's a great cast here. There's a really fun sort of story to it. The storytelling, especially, I think, is very creative and different, and I really appreciate that for sure. I do think the film can get a little too carried away in terms of its style and things like that. But overall, in terms of films that had me, just with a big old smile on my face throughout the whole movie and had me almost in stitches constantly, The Gentleman very much does fall into that category. I think this is a very, very entertaining film for sure. It definitely is a return to form for Guy Ritchie. I hope he continues to do more movies like this for sure. I really do love a lot of the cast here. All of them give some really strong performances, and overall, I just think this is a massively entertaining film. So I'm definitely going to give The Gentleman overall a B minus. But over, guys, to my review of The Gentleman. The moment you guys saw this one overall, lift your thoughts on it. We'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.